Welcome back into NCC News. I'm Jish Sokolsky. A multitude of games went down today across the sports world, both collegiately and professionally. With all the highlights and updates, we hand it off to Nico Horning.
Well, we can talk about the Four Nations face-off. We can talk about Syracuse's mishaps across a multitude of sports. But we're going to start with Syracuse men's lacrosse, suffering its first loss of the season against 6th-ranked Maryland last weekend. Now is the 6th-ranked squad itself. The Cuse welcomed 15th-ranked Harvard earlier today in the Dome. The Crimson were also coming off a loss against unranked Colgate. SU eyed a response back at home. SU's leading goal scorer, Joey Spallina, pumped up, and no Luke Roa today, one of the top 3 goal scorers on SU. Didn't matter. Sam English makes it 5-0 6 minutes in, and then later in the first period, a turnover right there caused Finn Thompson to grab the ball with a nice pass from Spallina, and Thompson scores to make it 6-3 after the first, one of a career-high 5 goals today for Finn Thompson, as he adds another right there coming out from behind decks. And Syracuse, with 2 minutes to go in the second, on the man up. Hiltz and Spallina playing catch, and then Hiltz fires it and scores. A season-high 4 goals for Owen Hiltz makes it 10-8 Syracuse at halftime, but things took a turn for the Cuse in the second. Harvard with the score makes it 15-13 Crimson. Now with 2 minutes to go, Leo gets blocked by Graham Stevens, doing what he did all day in the second half, and that forces a win for Harvard. 15-14, the Crimson upset the Orange. Stevens had 13 saves, and Syracuse loses its second straight. Head coach Gary Gait thought his squad didn't exactly have the right mentality going into today's game.
You can't just show up and expect to win. And I think that was a valuable lesson today. I think the second game in a row, they made plays when they needed them. We got to find ways to make plays, big plays, both ends of the field, everywhere. We got to develop some of that mental toughness.
Well, despite the loss, someone who did make big plays was specialist John Mullen. He won 28 of his 31 attempts at the X, the most face-off wins by a sophomore in program history. Syracuse can find some stability when the Orange travel to Utah on Saturday with face-off at 2 o'clock. On the women's side, head coach Kayla Trainer's number 4 squad went down to play number 2 North Carolina to open up ACC play. The Orange on a 3-game win streak heading into UNC, and Gracie Britton ties things up early at 1. She had a hat trick against Cornell earlier this week. And then Molly Guzik running in and finding the net. The freshman scored twice today. Syracuse up early, but here's where UNC made its run with a 1-goal lead. Not anymore. Kylie Motice makes it 4-2. And then later on in the first period, look at North Carolina up 7-2. Chloe Humphrey gets one to go. The number 1 recruit from the 2023 class, redshirted last year, had 5 goals in each of the last 2 games, but ended with just 2 today. North Carolina up 8-2 after the first period, and the Tar Heels ended up scoring another 8 goals to make it a 16-4 final. Syracuse loses its first game of the year, and the competition doesn't get any easier when 3rd-ranked Northwestern visits the Dome Tuesday at 3:30. In the Dome, Syracuse women's basketball welcomed 9th-ranked North Carolina, and it's been a rough season for head coach Felicia Leggett-Jack's squad in what she calls a rebuilding year. The Orange have a chance to close the season strong and snap a 2-game skid entering today's matchup, and Georgia Woolley put her team on her back later in the first, tied things up at 10 with UNC. And then Georgia Woolley from downtown, step back, draining straight away, does it again here. Back-to-back 3-pointers for Georgia Woolley, led the team with 17 points in the game, 4 of 5 from 3-point land. And Syracuse still hanging around in the third. Sophie Burrows catch and shoot, drains that one, 12 points in the game for her. And then on to the fourth quarter, Syracuse down 10. Kyra Wood backing her way in, gets the jumper to go off the glass, and it's just a 8-point game, but UNC would not go away. The Orange just couldn't get over the hump as Lexi Donarski knocks down the 3. 66-53 UNC, and North Carolina wins by 10. The comeback effort falls short for Syracuse despite shooting 66% from distance in the second half. 3rd straight loss for the Orange, and they move to 4-11 in conference play. The Cuse hits the road to play at Duke Sunday at 2. On to professional sports. The NHL made good use of its All-Star break with the first ever Four Nations face-off. Those 4 nations included the U.S., Canada, Sweden, and Finland, and it all came down to the Americans and the Canadians at TD Garden in Boston for the championship. Team USA, Team Canada matching up for the second time in the tournament. The U.S. won 3-1 in Montreal last weekend. Canada broke the ice first with a Nathan McKinnon goal, and then Austin Matthews goes for the wraparound, but Brady Tkachuk finishes the job and ties things up late in the opening period. Now, in the second, Jake Sanderson gets the putback, and USA on top 2-1. He was on his way to the beach when he got the call that he'd replace Canucks captain Quinn Hughes, who chose to recover from injury. USA up 1, not anymore as Sam Bennett punches it home, and then we go to overtime. We're tied at 2. Connor McDavid wins it for the Canadians, the 3-time NHL MVP and 7-time All-Star. Canada gets its revenge over the United States. Mitch Marner finished with 2 assists in the game, and John Cooper gets the win for the Canadians. He was the head coach of the Crunch, if you remember, back in 2012 to 2013 before getting promoted to Tampa. Now the longest tenured active coach in the NHL for the Tampa Bay Lightning wins it for Team Canada. NHL regular season action returns on Saturday. But enough hockey for now. Baseball season almost back. Spring training getting going at Steinbrenner Field as Cody Bellinger slips one through the right side of the field on an 0-2 breaking ball. And now there's runners on the corners for the Yanks in their spring training opener. Paul Goldschmidt golfs one to left field, and it hits off the top of the wall. Another Yankees newcomer. And the RBI double for Goldie. Dominguez scores. Bellinger scores on a throwing error, and it's 2-0 Yanks. New York up 3 in the 4th. Runners on the corners. Brendan Jones pulls one down the right field line, and an RBI base hit brings in Oswald Peraza to make it a 4-0 Yankees lead. And then in the 9th, Rays down to their final 2 outs. They get doubled up, and that ends the ball game. Yankees grab a 4-0 shutout in the spring training opener, and the Yanks play the Blue Jays in Dunedin tomorrow. Just a lot of exciting sports games today. Personally, as a baseball guy myself, I'm excited for spring training going. It's been fun watching, and opening day cannot come soon enough. I'm
sure it's probably exciting if you're a Yankees fan for sure, but if you're a Syracuse fan, you just watched 3 losses, it's really tough, isn't it?
It's brutal. The Yankees are going to be exciting this year, but men's lacrosse with 2 losses. You want to see women's lacrosse now with a loss. Women's basketball struggling, men's basketball struggling. Not a whole lot going right here in Syracuse. Hey, maybe the Syracuse Mets will have a good year come April.
Well, before any of those seasons continue, we've first got to talk about the weather. You know it's always changing here in central New York. That comes right after this.